A few days later, when the terror caused by the executions had died down, some of the animals thought they remembered that the sixth commandment declared no animal should kill any other animal. It was felt that the killings which had taken place did not square with this.
Clover asked Benjamin to read her the sixth commandment.
Not I. Nobody's ever seen a dead donkey.
And when Benjamin refused to meddle in such matters, she fetched Muriel to read the commandment for her.
No animal shall kill any other animal without cause.
Somehow or other, these last two words had slipped everyone's memory. But they saw now that the commandment was not violated. For clearly there was good reason for killing the traitors who had made themselves with Snowball.
Throughout that year, the animals worked even harder than the previous year. At times, it seemed they worked longer hours and fed no better than in Jones's day. But on Sunday mornings, Squealer would read us a long, reassuring list of some figures.
A production report for the week just completed. Hay production up 200%. Grains 300%. Milk 400%. Eggs 506.2%.
The animals saw no reason to disbelieve these impressive figures. All the same, Benjamin expressed a general sentiment when he said,
I'd rather have less figures and more food.
All orders were now issued through Squealer. Napoleon himself was not seen in public once in a fortnight. Even in the farmhouse, Napoleon inhabited separate apartments, took his meals alone, and always ate from a Crown Derby dinner service. It was also announced that the gun would be fired every year on Napoleon's birthday, as well as the other two anniversaries.
Napoleon was now and always referred to in the formal style as our leader, Comrade Napoleon. And the pigs like to invent for him such titles as Father of all the animals, Protector of the sheepfold, and Duckling's friend. In his speeches, Squealer would talk with tears running down his cheeks of Napoleon's wisdom, the goodness of his heart, and the deep abiding love he bore for all animals everywhere. It had become customary to give Napoleon the credit for every successful achievement. You'd often hear one man remark to another,
Under the guidance of our leader, Comrade Napoleon, I have laid 5 eggs in 6 days.
or 2 cows drinking in a pool would explain.
thanks to our leadership of Comrade Napoleon, how excellent our water tastes.
Meanwhile, Napoleon was engaged in complicated negotiations with Frederick and Pilkington. The pile of timber was yet unsold, and Frederick was the more anxious to get a hold of it. But he would not offer a reasonable price. At the same time, there were renewed rumors that Frederick and his men were plotting to attack Animal Farm and destroy the windmill.
Well, Frederick plots to bring against us 20 men, all armed with guns. And comrades, have you heard about the terrible cruelties Frederick practices on his animals? Well, he flogged an old horse to death. Well, he starves his cows. He killed his dog by throwing it into the furnace. He amuses himself in the evenings by making cocks fight with splinters of razor blade tied to their spurs.
The animals' blood boiled with rage when they heard these things, and sometimes they clamored to be attacked in Pitchfield Farm. And set the animals free.
Napoleon explained that he had never contemplated selling the timber to Frederick. The pigeons who were still sent out to spread tidings of the rebellion were forbidden to set foot on Pinchfield, and were ordered to drop their former slogan of death to humanity in favor of death to Frederick.
In the late summer, yet another of Snowball's machinations was laid bare. The wheat crop was full of weeds, and it was discovered that on one of his nocturnal visits, Snowball had mixed weed seeds with the seed corn. A gander who had been privy to the plot confessed his guilt and immediately committed suicide by swallowing deadly nightshade berries.
The animals now also learned that Snowball had never received the Order of Animal Hero First Class, as many of them had believed.
Well, this was merely a legend circulated by Snowball himself. Far from being decorated, he was actually censored for cowardice in the battle.
By autumn, the windmill was finished. Tired but proud, the animals walked round and round their masterpiece, which appeared to be beautiful in their eyes. When they thought of how they had labored, what discouragements they had overcome, and the enormous difference that would be made in their lives when the cells were turning and the dynamos running, their weariness was symptom, and they gamboled round and round the windmill uttering cries of triumph. Napoleon himself came to inspect the completed work, congratulated the animals on their achievement, and dedicated the edifice.
I hereby name this structure Napoleon Mill.
2 days later, the animals were struck dumb with surprise to learn that Napoleon had sold a pile of lumber to Frederick. Throughout the whole of his seeming friendship with Pilkington, he had really been in secret agreement with Frederick.
The pigs were in ecstasy over Napoleon's cunning. By seeming to be friendly with Pilkington, he had forced Frederick to raise his price by 12 pounds. The squealer bloated.
Comrades, the superior quality of Napoleon's mind is shown in the fact that he trusted nobody. Frederick wanted to pay for the timber with something he called a check. But our leader was too clever for him. He demanded payment in real 5-pound notes to be handed over before the timber was removed.
Frederick removed the timber with amazing speed, but 3 days later there was a terrible hullabaloo. Mr. Weinberg, his face deadly pale, came racing up the path on his bicycle and rushed straight for the farmhouse. The next moment, the animals heard a choking roar of rage from Napoleon's apartment.
Death! Death to Frederick!
News of what had happened spread through the farm like wildfire. The banknotes were forgeries. Frederick had got the timber for nothing.
Napoleon called the animals together and in a terrible voice pronounced judgment on Frederick.
When captured, he shall be boiled alive!
At the same time, he warned them that after this treacherous deed, Frederick and his men might make their long expected attack at any moment. The 4 pigeons were sent to Foxwood with a conciliatory message which it was hoped might reestablish good relations with Pilkington.
The very next morning, the attack came. The lookouts came racing with news that Frederick and his men had come through the gate. Boldly the animals sallied forth to meet him, but this time they did not have easy victory. They had had to battle with the cowshed. There were 15 men with half a
All right,
dozen
boys,
guns
come on.
and opening fire
Let's
on
get 'em this time, boys.
within 50 yards.
The animals took refuge in the farm building and peeped cautiously out from chinks and knobs. The whole of the big pasture, including the windmill, was in the hands of the enemy.
Napoleon seemed very lost. He paced up and down, casting wistful glances in the direction of Foxwood. If Pinkelton and his men would help, the day might be won. But at this moment, the pigeons returned, bearing a scrap of paper.
A message from Pilkington, Comrade Napoleon.
Quickly, what does it say?
Is he coming?
Will he help us?
What did it say?
When it says, serves you right.
Frederick and his men halted at the windmill. Two of them produced a crowbar and a sledgehammer. The animals watched them, and a murmur of dismay went around.
They're gonna knock down a windmill.
Impossible! The walls are too thick. They cannot knock it down in a week. Courage, comrades, courage!
But the men were drilling a hole in the base of the windmill. Slowly, with an air of almost amusement, Benjamin nodded his long muzzle.
I thought so. Do you see what they're doing? They're packing blasting powder into that hole.
In a few moments, there was a sudden deafening roar. All the animals flung themselves flat on their faces. When they got up again, a huge cloud of smoke was hanging where the windmill had been. Slowly, the breeze drifted away. The windmill had ceased to exist. At the sight of this, the animals' fear and despair were drowned in their rage against this wild attempt to laugh. A mighty cry of vengeance. Without waiting for orders from Napoleon, they charged forth in a body and made straight for the enemy. This time they did not heed the cruel fellows who struck them like hail. It was a savage, bitter battle. The cattle, the sheep, and chickens were killed, and nearly everyone was wounded, except Napoleon, who was directing operations from the rear.
And the men didn't go unscathed either. Two of them had their heads broken by blows from boxers' hoofs. Another was gored in the belly by a cow's horn. And when the 9 dogs suddenly appeared on the men's flank, baying ferociously, the cowardly enemy turned and ran for their life. The animals chased them right down to the bottom of the field and got into last-minute picks and forced their way through the thorn hedge.
Weary and bleeding, the animals began to limp back to the farm. They halted in sorrowful silence at the place where the windmill had once stood. It was gone, all gone. Almost the last trace of their labor was gone. It was as though the windmill had never been.
But as they approached the farm, Squealer, who had unaccountably been absent during the fight, came skipping towards them beaming. From the direction of the farm buildings, the animals heard the solemn firing of a gun.
What is that gun firing for?
Well, to celebrate our victory.
Victory? What victory?
What victory, comrade? Have we not driven the enemy off the sacred soil of Animal Farm?
But they have destroyed the windmill.
Oh, what matter? We'll build another windmill. We'll build 6 windmills if we feel like it. You do not appreciate, comrade, the mighty thing we have done. The enemy was in the very occupation of the very ground we stand on. Now, thanks to the leadership of Comrade Napoleon, we have won every inch of it back.
Then we've won back what we had before.
Well, that is our victory.
Boxer, who had suffered a split hoof, limped painfully back into the yard. He saw ahead of him the heavy labor of rebuilding that there windmill from its foundations, and already in imagination braced himself for the task. But for the first time, it occurred to him he was 11 years old, and his great muscles were not what they once had been.
Well, when the animals heard Napoleon's speech, congratulating them on their conduct, it did seem after all they had won a great victory. The animals slain in the battle were given a solemn funeral, and it was announced the battle would be called the Battle of the Windmill.
And Napoleon created a new decoration, the Order of the Green Banner, which he conferred upon himself.
A few days later, the pigs came upon a case of whiskey in the cellar of the farmhouse, overlooking the house of the first boxer. That night,
Animal Farm, drink the whiskey on the horn.
About 9:30,
Double shots for all of us, boys. Double shots for all of us.
Mr. Jones was distinctly seen to emerged from the back door, galloped rapidly around the yard, and disappeared indoors again.
But in the morning, a deep silence hung over the farmhouse. Not a pig appeared to be stirring, and it was nearly 9 o'clock before Squealer made his appearance. Walking slowly and dejectedly, his eyes dull, with every appearance of being seriously ill, he called the animals together and told them he had terrible news to impart.
Oh, comrades, Comrade Napoleon is dying.
What?
A cry of lamentation went up, and with tears in their eyes, the animals asked one another what they should do if their leader were taken from them. A rumor went round that Snowball had contrived to poison Napoleon. At 11 o'clock, Squealer made another announcement.
As his last act on earth, Comrade Napoleon has pronounced a solemn decree. The drinking of alcohol is to be punished by death.
By evening, however, Napoleon appeared to be somewhat better. The following morning, Squealer was able to tell them that he was well on his way to recovery. And the next day, it was learned that he had instructed Whymper to purchase some books on brewing and distilling. The small paddock behind the orchard was to be plowed up. Napoleon intended to sow it with barley.
About this time occurred a strange incident. One night there was a loud crash in the yard. The animals rushed out of their stalls. At the foot of the end of the wall of the big barn where the 7 commandments were written, lay a ladder broken in two. Squealer was sprawling behind him, and near hand lay a lantern, a paintbrush, and an overturned pot of white paint. None of the animals could figure out any idea of what this meant, except old Benjamin, who nodded his muzzle knowingly.
But a few days later, Muriel, reading the 7 commandments to herself, noticed there was yet another of them which the animals had remembered wrong. They had thought the 5th commandment was no animal shall drink alcohol. But there were 2 words they had forgotten. Actually said, no animal shall drink alcohol to excess.
Boxer's split hoof was a long time healing. They had started rebuilding the windmill the day after the victory celebration. Boxer refused to take even a day off and made it a point of honor not to let it be seen that he was hurt. Clover treated his hoof with bandages, and both she and Benjamin urged Boxer to work as hard, but he never listened. He had one burning ambition, to see that windmill completed before he reached the age for retirement.
At the beginning, the retirement age had been fixed for horses and pigs at 12, cows at 14, dogs at 9, sheep at 7, and for hens and geese at 5. So far, no animal had actually retired. But now the small field beyond the orchard had been planted in barley. It was rumored that the large pasture was to be turned into a grazing ground for superannuated animals. Boxer's 12th birthday was due in the summer of the next year.
Meanwhile, life was hard. The winter was as cold as the last one, and food was even shorter. Once again, all rations were reduced, except, of course, those of the pigs and the dogs. The Squealer explained it all.
We are not really short of food, comrade. In comparison with the days of Jones, the improvement is tremendous. We have more oats, more hay, more turnips. We work shorter hours. Our drinking water is of better quality. We live longer, have more straw in our stalls, and suffer less from fleas.
And the animals believed every word of it. And truth to tell, Jones and all that he had stood for had almost faded out of their memories.
In the autumn, the 4 sows littered simultaneously, producing 31 young pigs. it was announced that a schoolroom would be built in the farmhouse garden. And for the time being, the young pigs were to be given their education by Napoleon himself. They were discouraged from playing with any of the other young animals. And it was laid down a rule that when any pig met another animal on a path, the other animal must stand aside. Also, the pigs now enjoyed the privilege of wearing green ribbons in their tails on Sundays.
The farm was still short of money. There were bricks, sand, and lime for the schoolroom to be purchased, and it was also necessary to begin saving up again for machinery for the windmill. Rations, reduced in December, were reduced again in February. Lanterns in the stalls were forbidden to save oil. But the pigs seemed comfortable enough, and in fact, were putting on weight. If anything, the news leaked out that every pig was now receiving a ration of a pint of beer daily, with half a gallon for Napoleon himself, which was always served to him in a crown derby tureen.
But if there were hardships to be borne, they were partially offset by the fact that life nowadays had a greater dignity than ever before. There were more songs, more speeches, and more processions. So with Squealer's list of figures and the fluttering of the flag, the animals were able to forget, at least part of the time, that their bellies were empty.
In April, the animal farm was proclaimed a republic, and it became necessary to elect a president. There was only one candidate, Napoleon. He was elected unanimously. On the same day, it was given out that fresh documents had been discovered which revealed further details about Snowball's complicity with Jones. It now appeared that Snowball had not merely attempted to lose the battle of the cowshed, but had openly been fighting on Jones's side. In fact, he had actually been the leader of the human forces, charging into battle with a cry of, "Long live humanity!"
Long live humanity.
On his lips. And the wounds on Snowball's back, which a few of the animals still remembered seeing, had been inflicted by Napoleon's teeth.
In the middle of summer, Moses the raven suddenly reappeared on the farm. He was quite unchanged, still did no work, and still talked by the hour to anyone who would listen.
Sugar candy mountain brethren, sugar candy mountain. It's glorious. It's up there, way up there, past that dark and dim cloud. It's that happy place that all us poor animals go to rest forever from our labors. Oh, I've been there. Yes, I've been there. I've seen it with my own eyes. I sugar candy mountain clover. This ain't season all year long. I didn't see cake, the great lumps of sugar on all the hedges. Oh, it's beautiful, brethren. It's beautiful. It's glorious. It's sugar candy mountain. I get a witness?
Many of the animals still believed him. Was it not right, just that somewhere a better world should exist? And difficult to comprehend was the attitude of the pigs toward Moses. They declared contemptuously that his stories about Sugar Candy Mountain were lies. Yet they allowed him to remain on the farm, not working, with an allowance of a gill of beer a day.
After his hoof skills, Boxer worked harder than ever. Sometimes the long hours on insufficient food were hard to bear. But Boxer never faltered. In nothing he said or did was there any sign that his strength was not what it had been. It was only his appearance that was a little altered. His hide less shiny than it used to be. His great haunches seemed to have shrunken. And sometimes on the slope leading up to the top of the quarry, when he braced his great muscles against the weight of some vast boulder, it seemed that nothing kept him off his feet except the will to continue. Clover and Benjamin begged him to take care of his health, but Boxer paid no attention like usual. Then late one evening in the summer, 2 pigeons came flying in with dreadful news.
Boxer has fallen!
He's lying on his side and he can't get up.
The animals rushed to the knoll where the windmill stood. There lay Boxer, his neck stretched out, unable to even raise his head. His eyes were glazed, and his sides were matted with sweat. A thin stream of blood trickled out of his mouth. Clover dropped her roots beside him.
Boxer, what is it? What's wrong?
It's my lung. But no matter though, you will all be able to finish the windmill without me. I've only had about a month to go in any case. And to tell you the truth, I've kind of been looking forward to my retirement.
We must get help at once. Run, somebody, and tell Squealer what has happened.
About a quarter of an hour later, Squealer appeared, full of sympathy and concern.
Comrade Napoleon has learned with the deepest distress of this misfortune to one of our most loyal workers. Already made arrangements to send Boxer to the town hospital for treatment.
The animals felt very uneasy at this. They did not like to think of their sick comrade in the hands of human beings. However, Squealer convinced them that the veterinary surgeon could treat Boxer better than they could do at our farm. And about a half hour later, when Boxer had somewhat recovered, he managed to limp back to his stall.
Well, I'm not too sorry about what's happened. Why, if I make a good recovery, I'm expected to live a whole nother 3 years. And I look forward to the peaceful days in the corner of that there big pasture.
But Boxer, what will you ever do with your spare time?
Oh, I've got a plan. Something I've wanted to do for a long time.
What is it, Boxer?
I'm going to devote the rest of my life to learning the remaining 22 letters of that there alphabet.
In the middle of the day, a van came to take him away. The animals were at work when Benjamin came galloping from the direction of the farm buildings. Braying at the top of his voice, it was the first time they'd ever seen Benjamin excited.
Quick, come at once. They're taking Boxer away.
The animals raced back to the farm, and sure enough, there in the yard stood a large closed van with a sly-looking man sitting in the driver's seat. The animals crowded around the van.
There he is, inside.
He's going away.
Goodbye, Boxer. Goodbye.
Fools, don't you see what's written on the side of that van?
Alfred Simmons, horse, slaughterer, and blue boiler.
Don't you understand what that means? They're selling Boxer to the necker.
Stop him! Somebody stop him!
Come back here!
Boxer, get out quickly. They're taking you to your dad.
They heard the sound of a tremendous drumming of hooves from inside the van, but the van was already gathering speed. In another moment, it disappeared down the road, and Boxer was never seen again.
3 days later, it was announced that he had died in the hospital, in spite of receiving every attention the horse could have. Squealer came to announce the news to the others.
I was at his bedside at the very last. At the end, almost too weak to speak, he whispered in my ear that his sole sorrow was to have passed on before the windmill was finished. Forward, comrades, he whispered. Forward in the name of the rebellion. Long live Animal Farm. Long live Napoleon. Those were his very last words, comrades.
The animals were enormously impressed. Now, the Squealer went on to give further graphic details of Boxer's deathbed, admirable care he had received, and the expensive medicine for which Napoleon paid without a thought as to the cost. The sorrow they felt for their comrade's death was tempered by the thought that at least he had died happy.
Napoleon himself appeared at the meeting the following Sunday and pronounced a short oration in Boxer's honor.
We deeply regret that it is not possible to bring back our late lamented comrade's remains for interment on the farm. But in a few days the pigs intend to hold a memorial banquet in Boxer's honor. Meanwhile, let me remind you of his priceless heritage to us. 2 maxims, which every animal would do well to adopt as his own. Remember forever, comrades, the wise words of our dear Boxer. I will work harder, and Comrade Napoleon is always right.
Well, on the day appointed for the banquet, the grocer delivered a large wooden crate to the farmhouse. That night, there was the sound of uproarious singing from within.
Double shots, boys.
No one stirred in the farmhouse till noon the following day. Somewhere or other, the pigs had acquired the money to buy themselves another case of whiskey.
Years passed. Time came when there was no one who remembered the good old days before the rebellion, except for Clover, Benjamin, Moses, and a few of the pigs.
Muriel was dead. Jones had died in an inebriate's home in another part of the country. Snowball was forgotten. Boxer was forgotten, except by the few who had loved him. Clover was an old, stout mare now, 2 years past the retiring age. But in fact, no animal had ever actually retired. Napoleon was now a mature boar of 24 stone. Squealer was so fat that he could with difficulty see out of his eyes. Only old Benjamin was much the same as ever, except for being a little grayer about the muzzle, and since Boxer's death, more taciturn than ever.
Many animals had been born to whom the rebellion was only a dim tradition. The farm was more prosperous now and better organized. The windmill had been successfully completed at last, and the farm possessed a threshing machine, a hay elevator, and various new buildings.
The windmill had not, after all, been used to generate neat electrical power. It was used for milling the corn and brought in a handsome profit. But the luxuries of which Snowball had taught the animals to dream, the stalls with electric lights and hot, cold running water, these were no longer even talked about. Napoleon had denounced such ideas as being contrary to the spirit of animalism. True happiness, he said, lay in working hard and living frugally.
Somehow it seemed the farm had grown richer without making the animals themselves any richer, except of course for the pigs and the dogs. It wasn't that these creatures didn't work after their fashion. There was, as Squealer never tired of explaining, endless work in the supervision and organization of the farm.
We of pigs have to expend enormous labor every day on things called files, reports, and memoranda. And these are large sheets of paper which have to be closely covered with writing. And as soon as they are so covered, they must be burnt in the furnace. This is of the highest importance for the welfare of the farm.
As for the others, they were generally hungry. They slept on straw. They labored in the fields. In winter, they were troubled by the cold, and in summer by the flies. Sometimes the older ones among them racked their dim memories and tried to determine whether in the early days of the rebellion things had been better or worse. But they could not remember. Squealer's lists of figures invariably demonstrated that everything was getting better and better. Only old Benjamin professed to know that things never had been, nor ever could be much better or much worse. Hunger, hardship, and disappointment were, he said, the unalterable law of life.
Yet the animals never gave up hope. They were still the only farm in all England owned and operated by animals. And when they heard the guns boom and saw the flag fluttering at the masthead, their hearts swelled with pride, and the talk will return to the old heroic days, the expulsion of Jones, and the writing of the 7 Commandments, the great battles in which the human invaders had been defeated. None of the old dreams had been abandoned. The Republic of Animals which old Major had foretold was still believed in. If they were hungry, it was not from feeding tyrannical human beings. If they worked hard, at least they worked for themselves. No creature amongst them went on 2 legs. No creature called any other creature master. All animals were equal.
One day in early summer, Squealer ordered the sheep to follow him to a piece of waste ground at the other end of the farm. There they remained for a whole week, during which time Squealer was with them for the greater part of every day, teaching them to sing a new song.
It was just after the sheep had returned, on a pleasant evening, when the animals had finished work and were making their way back to the farm buildings, that a terrified neighing sounded from the yard. It was Clover! She neighed again, and all the animals rushed into the yard. Then they saw what Clover had seen.
It's Squealer! He's walking!
On his hind legs!
Yes, it's Squealer, walking on his hind legs. Awkward at first, as though he's not quite used to supporting that considerable bulk in that position. But with perfect balance, he strolled across the yard. Then, out of the farmhouse came a long file of pigs, every one of them walking on their hind legs. 1 or 2 looked like they would need the support of a stick, but every one of them made their way around the yard successfully.
Finally, out came Napoleon himself, his dogs standing about, majestically upright, casting haughty glances from side to side, and in his trotter he carried a whip.
There was deadly silence. Amazed and terrified, the animals watched the long line of pigs march slowly around the yard. It was as though the world had turned upside down. Then the moment came when, in spite of everything, in spite of the terror of the dogs, of the habit developed through years of never complaining, never criticizing, they might have uttered some word of protest. At that moment, as though at a signal, all the sheep burst into tremendous bleating.
4 legs good, 2 legs better, 4 legs good, 2 legs better.
This went on for 5 minutes without stopping, and by the time the sheep had quieted down, the pigs marched back to the farmhouse.
Benjamin felt a nose nuzzling at his shoulder. It was Clover. She tugged gently at his mane and led him to the end of the big barn where the 7 commandments were written.
My sight is failing, but it appears to me that the wall looks different now. Are the 7 commandments the same as they used to be, Benjamin?
For once, Benjamin consented to break his rule, and he read to her what was written on the wall. There was nothing there now, except a single commandment, which read,
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
After that, it did not seem strange when the next day the pigs all carried whips. It did not seem strange to learn the pigs bought for themselves a wireless set, were arranging to install a telephone, and had taken subscriptions to the daily papers. It did not seem strange when Napoleon was seen strolling around the garden with a pipe in his mouth. No, not even when the pigs took Mr. Jones's clothes out of the wardrobe and put them on.
A week later, a deputation of neighboring farmers came to inspect the farm. They were shown all over and expressed great admiration for everything they saw, especially the windmill. Animals worked diligently, hardly raising their faces from the ground, not knowing whether to be more frightened of the pigs or of the human visitors. That evening, loud laughter burst and song came from the farmhouse, and at the sound of the mingled voices, the animals were stricken with curiosity. What could be happening in there? Now that for the first time, animals and humans were meeting on terms of equality. They began to creep quietly back into the farmhouse garden.
They tiptoed up to the house and peered in the dining room window. There around the long table sat half a dozen farmers and half a dozen of the more eminent pigs. Napoleon himself sat at the head of the table. A large jug was circulating and mugs were being refilled. Mr. Pilkington now stood up.
This Mr. Napoleon is the ladies and the gentlemen. It is a great source of satisfaction to me to feel that a long period of distrust and a misunderstanding has now come to an end. There was a time when the respected proprietors of animal farms were regarded with a certain amount of misgiving by their human neighbors. It used to be felt that the existence of a farm owned and operated by the pigs might have an unsettling effect on the peace of neighborhood. Too many of us, I assume, I fear that on such a farm a spirit of license would prevail. We were nervous about the effect on our farms. But today we have inspected this animal farm. And what did we find? Not only the most up-to-date methods, but I believe I am right by saying that on this farm, the lower class animals do more work and receive less food than anybody in this country.
Here, here!
Between the pigs and the human beings, there is not, nor ever be, any clash of interest whatsoever. Our problems are exactly the same. You have your lower class animals to contend with, and we have our lower classes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will give you a toast to the prosperity of this animal farm.
Animal farm! Animal farm! Cheers! 3 cheers! Oh, thank you, Mr. Pilkington, for those kind remarks. And now, our great leader, Napoleon, will say a few words.
Squealer, honored guests, fellow pigs, I too am happy that the period of misunderstanding has come to an end. For a long time, there were rumors circulated by a foul and malignant enemy that there was something subversive, even revolutionary, in the outlook of myself and my colleagues. We have even been accused of attempting to stir up rebellion among the animals on neighboring farms. Gentlemen, nothing could be further from the truth. Our sole wish now, as in the past, is to live at peace with everyone.
Here, here!
I do not believe any of the old suspicions still linger, but certain changes recently effected should have the effect of promoting confidence still further. For example, heretofore the animals on this farm have had the rather foolish custom of addressing each other as comrade. This is to be discontinued immediately. Moreover, tonight it gives me great pleasure to announce another important change. The name Animal Farm has been abolished. Henceforth, this farm is to be known by its correct and original name, the Manor Farm.
Here, here!
So, friends, I give you the same toast as before. but in a different form. Fill your glasses to the brim. Gentlemen, here is my toast to the prosperity of the Manor Farm.
The
Yes,
Manor
sir.
Farm.
The Manor Farm.
The Manor Farm.
Oh, here,
Good
here.
There was the same hearty cheering as before, and the mugs were empty to the dregs, but as the animals outside gazed at the scene, it seemed that some strange thing was happening. What had altered in the faces of the pigs? Clover's old dim eyes flitted from one face to another. Some of them had 5 chins, some had 4, some 3, but what was it that seemed to be melting and changing? The creatures looked from pig to man, man to pig, and pig to man again. But already it was impossible to say which was which. All right, good job, guys.
This one here?
One more shadow.
Just the last half or the whole thing?